Did you know that enjoying your life can actually make your life more enjoyable? I know, this sounds like wordplay or chicken and egg situation, but hear me out. Studies show that finding joy in everyday things is necessary for living a truly fulfilling life, and enjoyment is not a luxury, it's critical for our survival. Pleasure is our birthright thanks to evolution. How this all connected? Let's dive in. I'm Marina Morgan, an entrepreneur and the founder of a boutique organizational psychology agency in Silicon Valley, themorganimpact. On this channel, we discuss the most relevant knowledge and practices that help me and my clients build resilience and grow their businesses, even in the most challenging and unpredictable times. First, let's take a logical look at the evolutionary role of enjoyment. Nature has given us this instrument so we can orient ourselves toward those things that truly suits us. Think about the very different preferences of the people in your life. For example, some people you know might love onions and others may hate them. Why it is so? Let's consider a deeper example. Imagine that you are a prehistoric human. You have a very limited scientific understanding of the world. You have no writing, you have no instruments of navigation, you have no means of conducting nutrient analysis. How will you determine what to do or where to go? It seems obvious that you will primarily do these things that give you enjoyment. You will seek of those foods that smell and taste good to you. You will seek more comfortable places to sleep at night. And of course, one of the main evolutionary functions of our species, that of reproduction, is the integrally linked with one of the most significant forms of pleasure we can experience. If pleasure is indeed such a powerful and ancient tool right at our disposal, we should learn how to most effectively use it and not to reject or feel shame about those things that bring us enjoyment. Or let's take a look at the animals. No one explained to them that those things that they enjoy should be linked with any sense of shame. Think about the nesting rituals of a house cat. A cat will spend a good deal of time and will work very hard to find and create that perfect place to sleep, attempting to find something that is most comfortable and warm. Animals instinctively seek out the most pleasant conditions for themselves because that is closely integrated with their survival strategies. Unlike animals, humans have consciousness, which is both our greatest evolutionary gift and curse. We're the only animal that can experience shame from pursuing pleasure or to convince ourselves that suffering in the service of some greater goals is justified. What is also important to understand is that pleasure is closely linked with motivation on the neurophysiological level. And we will now explore this idea more deeply. For greater context, I encourage you to view my video on neuroplasticity linked below. In that video, we discussed how our ability to learn, adapt, and grow is nothing other than function of neuroplasticity, or the creation of new connection among neurons. So, we have already touched on the topic of neuroplasticity, and today I would like to look in detail at how exactly this happens, how our neurons interact from those synaptic connections. Here is a picture of what that looks like. These little dots are neurotransmitters that enable to interact between neurons. When our neurons begin to interact, there is a process of communication through what is called the synaptic cleft, which is the space between neurons where neurotransmitters transmit signals. Neurons have receptors for specific neurotransmitters, and within the synapses are the stores of these neurotransmitters. The two main neurotransmitters of interest to you and me today are dopamine and endorphin. You may have heard that dopamine is the neurotransmitter that is responsible for motivation. It motivates us to move forward, achieve goals, and feel pleasure when we accomplish them. Endorphins, on the other hand, are better known as the happy hormones and create a sense of well-being and joy. What is also important to understand is that endorphins actually stimulate the production of dopamine. If you experience a regular enjoyment in your everyday life and hence have abundant endorphin activity, it is also a signal from your brain to your entire organism that everything is fine, that you are on the right track and you can keep moving forward. There is a fascinating experiment that was conducted on mice that I learned from Gabor Mate, an eminent specialist in addiction disorders. In this study, there were two groups of mice. In the first group, young mice grew up with their mothers, and in the other, the mice were separated from their mothers following birth. When the mice matured, the researchers began to provide food to the mice by placing it away at some distance from them. The mice from the first group, the ones that grew up with their mothers, would smell the food and had the healthy motivation to pursue it. In contrast, mice that were deprived from maternal care during critical development phases showed a diminished response to food and reward stimuli. Even then, the researchers placed the foods right in front of them. They often lacked their motivation to respond. The reason for this is the endorphin system, which is both mice and humans, is formed during the early infancy. The endorphin system is activated in this manner at the earliest stage of our development and is critical in forming our long-term ability to experience enjoyment. Unfortunately, there are those people who are due to certain dysfunctions in their early development simply cannot process endorphins in sufficient amounts and are biochemically limited in how much pleasure they can experience. This fact is very important for entrepreneurs. I have not found research on the subject, but this is my strongly held hypothesis. I have released a prior video where we discuss the neurological uniqueness of entrepreneurs. Studies show that they may actually have a unique increased sensitivity to dopamine. I think this is why entrepreneurs often say that they are extremely focused on the results, even though the process of achieving those results can actually be rather unpleasant or difficult. My hypothesis is that if entrepreneurs learn to focus more on the pleasant aspects of achieving certain results, thereby stimulating increases dopamine production, they would be better able to sustain higher levels of motivation over much longer time frames. Let's revisit the critical period of early childhood, a phase essential for the development of what psychologists term basic trust in the world. This fundamental sense of trust is shaped when we, as infants, receive stable and nurturing care from our parents. When our needs, whether for food, comfort, or affection, are met consistently and promptly, it helps form an inner sense of security. This internal foundation or inner support stays throughout life, shaping how we interact with the world, handle challenges, and build relationships. This fundamental sense of trust is shaped when we, as infants, receive stable and nurturing care from our parents. When our needs, whether for food, comfort, or affection, are met consistently and promptly, it helps form an inner sense of security. This internal foundation or inner support stays throughout life, shaping how we interact with the world, handle challenges, and build relationships. This trust is not just emotional, but also deeply physiological. Warmth and reliability of our early contact with caregivers directly influence the development of our brain's reward systems, laying the groundwork for how we perceive safety, pleasure, and motivation in the future. Research suggests that this foundational sense of trust in oneself and the world plays a critical role in determining personal success. If challenges arise during this formative period and the person does not develop the deep-seated belief that I'm okay and the world is okay, it can create significant barriers to career advancement or business growth. Without this internal assurance, the individual may struggle with risk-taking, adaptability, or the confidence needed to expand their potential. I'm sure you've already realized how challenging it can be to work with such deep layers of the psyche, especially those formed in infancy. But now you also know that these early experiences influence the neurological foundations of how we function as adults. However, my practice has shown me that while it is difficult, it's not impossible. With the right approach and persistence, it's entirely possible to rewrite and heal these early imprints, allowing individuals to overcome this deeply ingrained limitation and move forward with greater confidence and ease. The sense of deep confidence in oneself, coupled with the belief that I will somehow manage everything, provides the crucial feeling of leadership freedom. This inner confidence is essential for taking on great, large-scale endeavors. The ability to develop the system, our capacity to biochemically tolerate happiness, while also building resilience, confidence, and motivation is crucial not only for entrepreneurs, but for everyone. The good news is that this skill can be trained. As we discussed in the last video, the brain is a physical organ, and like an other part of the body, it can be trained through consistent practice. At the end of this video, I'll share practical advice on how to cultivate this capacity. And for entrepreneurs watching, there will be an extra bonus, so make sure to stay until the end. If you have already found something helpful in this video, please consider showing your support by liking it or sharing it with someone for whom this message could be important. Your engagement helps us to continue creating valuable content. So far, I've shared some compelling arguments about the evolutionary importance of pleasure, its natural role in our lives, and the link between everyday enjoyment and motivation. But if that's not enough to convince you, let's dive into another crucial element, our ability to learn and adapt. The truth is, we perceive reality through the lens of lived experiences. If we experience a positive association with something, we won't evaluate the new unfamiliar experience as harshly as we would judge something that already has a negative connection with our past. Think about the school. It can be any school or institution where you can learn and feel peer pressure. If there was a subject that you really liked, you probably had no issue studying it and felt like it's easy to succeed. If, on the other hand, there was a subject you dislike or didn't understand why you have to study it, then it would be much harder to learn and especially retain that knowledge. In adult life, our brain has already formed neural connection based on this experience in the past. It tries to project the known experiences and situations onto the new reality, so it's not necessarily an objective evaluation of what's going on around us. And because our brain and body are connected, we feel this fear to change physically. Think about the first time you had to speak publicly. Not even the first time, it happens much more often and to all of us. We feel shortness of breath, dryness in the mouth, and heart palpitations. Stress is on high and confidence on the low. Our body is almost head-checking itself, blocked us from making that speech again, and evolutionary device to avoid danger. But these risks are worth taking. We can only improve with practice. It happens a lot when we change jobs, move to a different city or country, or change our lifestyle due to external reasons. So, what's the best advice to get past those fears and use fears as fuel? Once again, our ability to find enjoyment comes to our rescue. The key here is to gradually, step by step, rewrite your relationship with novelty. Whether it's new experiences in general or specific situation. Say you have a fear of public speaking and you've already imagined every possible disaster. Instead, put on your favorite shirt, enjoy that little moment of self-care. Then remind yourself, even if I stumble, everyone will get to see how great I look at this shirt, and maybe that will make them feel better. It's a simple example, but it's illustrated the shift I want you make. The goal is to change your focus and to train yourself to find something positive, even in the challenging situation. I can't fully express how challenging and exciting it is for me to create content in English, which isn't my first language, especially when I discuss with you such complex and important concepts. When I started feeling uncomfortable or shame, I remind myself there are many people in the world who wouldn't even dare to record something in their native language. So you're already doing great. That's a little reminder, helps me to push through even then things feel tough. Did you experience something similar in your personal or professional life? Comment below. Now that we talked about this need to enjoy your everyday life, you may be thinking, Marina, okay, what can I do today to start? I'm glad you asked and thinking about it. Here are some recommendations I offer my clients, and I use these techniques myself too. How to start enjoying each moment. Start by creating a list of things that bring you joy. Aim for 30 or 40 items, covering everything from small moments like a view from your window to the simple pleasure of morning coffee. Reflect on moments that fill you with anticipation and delight, like the sight of the beautiful landmark or favorite part of your daily drive. Focus on moments that provide a sense of lingering pleasure, not just fleeting satisfaction. Integrate pleasure into your day. Set aside 10 or maybe even 30 minutes each day for focused enjoyment. You can even start from 3 or 5 or 10 minutes a day. This can be anything from enjoying the moment of silence to reading a book in your favorite chair. As you are watching this video, I'm sure you've asked yourself this question. What's about my guilty pleasures? What if what bring me enjoyment are things that we know are not the best for us, like scrolling through the social media, eating junk food, binging on video games, or maybe taking drugs or drinking alcohol? This is an excellent question, and I'm happy to speak with you about it. You need to understand that, for the most part, these pleasures are fairly novel innovations of our culture, and our minds and bodies are still not well adapted to them. We must also create the distinction between low and high value enjoyment. Low value enjoyment created by the activities I just mentioned gives us momentary satisfaction, but ultimately leaves us feeling empty and unfulfilled. High value enjoyment, on the other hand, creates lasting fulfillment and distinguished by the eager anticipation, pleasure in the moment, and the lasting sense of pleasure after the activity is done. The whole time you engage in these types of activities, you are training your entire organism to experience more enjoyment. So be mindful about expensive, yes, cheap pleasure. Navigate life through enjoyment. Start with very simple decisions. Just pause and ask yourself, what do I want for breakfast? Then give yourself a minute, you can even close your eyes. Really listen to yourself. Imagine a few options: scrambled eggs, avocado toast, or maybe something else. And literally feel the sensation in your mouth. Notice how your body responds. Which choice makes you salivate? That's your answer. Go with it. Begin practicing these little things every day. Which road do I want to take home? Do I feel like I want an apple, a banana, jeans or pants? The main thing is to give yourself 30 or 40 seconds to tune and experience what often called the whole body yes. Now, imagine you are integrated all this into your life and you feel pretty happy about it. Do you know that in addition to overall satisfaction with life, this pivot to pleasure can help with the decision making? So here we are with a bonus for entrepreneurs. The beauty of it is that we always have the same brain with us, no matter where we go. And when we train it to choose the best solution for ourselves in any given moment, establishing contact with us, all of our internal system, we develop the ability to instinctively make the best possible choices quickly. The trick is to learn to hear yourself using the simple examples and then gradually make those choices more complex over time. Well, enjoy the process, don't aim for grand outcomes immediately. Instead, focus on making the act of finding pleasure a habit. Gradually train your brain and accumulate pleasure in small doses, creating a more robust neural network of joy. In our next video, we will dive deeper into this topic, how the culture we grow up in affects our lives and behaviors, and what self-imposed limitation we can break to move ahead in life. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.